Alright, so this week we're going to be replacing the radio in my truck, and the first thing we need to do is take the radio out to do this. There are 4 holes on each side, or 4 holes total, and they make tools to take this out, but I just have some 3/32 filler rod that I'm going to use to push in there, and I'll kind of show you the non-tooled way to get these out of there. So what I've seen a lot of people do is you take this and you bend it into kind of a U shape to line up with the holes. And that's what I'm doing here, and basically this will mimic the shape of that tool you can get, and then you can shove it into the bottom one like you see here, bend it over at the top, and then you can have the top and bottom in at the same time. Then once you get the top and bottom bent into that U shape, you can push it in like this into both the top and bottom holes, and then we just got to do the same thing with the left side as well. So the only thing about doing this U shape is that sometimes if your lines aren't bent carefully, they don't line up, and that's what happened with the second one. So I just ended up cutting it into 2 L shapes instead, and now it will for sure fit, and I'll be able to pry it as needed from there. So I ended up doing the same thing on the right side just because I couldn't get them to fully seat, and what I've learned about these is that you have to make sure these are pushed all the way in until they get tight. And then with both hands at the same time, you want to press in and flex out. And then you're going to see me kind of wiggle back and forth here. And it can be a pain to get out, so don't start reefing on it because you might break something internally. And you'll see here that I kind of working back and forth with it a little bit. It's pretty stuck, but you'll see after a little bit, the left side is completely free, but that right side is still locked in. So you can see me, I'm just kind of wiggling it back and forth, pushing and pulling out. And eventually I get the idea of, well, if the left side's in, maybe pull these pins out on the right, inspect them a little bit, make sure they're straight, and then reinsert them. So that's what I'm going to do here, just put them back in after straightening them back out, and hopefully that will allow me to get to the depth that I need to inside of there to disengage that locking mechanism in there. And you'll see here in a second once I do push those in all the way, and sometimes you got to push a little harder than you would think and they would click in like that right there. And just straighten this out one more time so it can go all the way in. Alright, got it cut. And then we push it back in, wiggle it, push it. Ah, there it goes. Felt it there. Perfect. And then you can see, once I got those pushed all the way in, pops out not too bad. So if it feels like it's not coming out, just readjust your wires that you're putting in there, and more than likely they're probably not fully seated in, which is why you're not able to get it out. So don't go all Hulk on this and just start smashing it apart, because you're going to want to keep some of this stuff so you don't have issues later. And we got the old radio. So there's a couple things we need to be careful with on this radio. So let me just move the camera in a little closer here. So this is the antenna. These are the 2 plugs going to the back that we will rewire for the one that I'm using. And then this plastic piece needs to be attached to the new radio as well, because if you look in there, it's a little tough to see, but there's a top rail right here that holds, that plastic piece holds the radio to the top of this. So we got it out now, and now we just need to take it apart, and I think we'll be good to go. So let's see where we go. Alright, so now that we got it removed, all we got to do is take these plastic covers off for each one of the wiring harness plugs, I guess you could call them, that go into the back of this radio. And once we do that, then we just got to wiggle these back and forth carefully, try not to break anything on it because this is old plastic, and disconnect one. Then we will come down here, grab the next one, do the same thing, take the plastic cover off, wiggle it back and forth until it comes loose. And then the last thing we got to take off is the antenna one right here, and we are good to go. So now that we have everything taken apart, all we have to do is put our adapter plugs on here back together, put the new radio in with the new housing, and we should be good to go. Luckily I have my buddy Charlie here with me this week who's going to help out with that, so I'm going to pass it over to him and let him take care of that.
Alright, I'm Thor's lackey this week, so here I am doing a wire install, and we got the harness for this section, which goes to the stock Ford section. But the problem is the stock section, or the aftermarket section for the speakers, did not line up with the original Ford. So instead, I just went through and we used these trick little solder heat shrink connectors that our buddy showed us about, and found a wiring diagram for the stock harness and used the wiring diagram for the aftermarket radio, and lo and behold, I wired it all together. So let's see if it will even work. Hopefully you guys can see that. Probably not. So let's see. And we can jam out to some talk radio. Damn.
All right, so we just finished our first long trip with the new radio, and it works pretty dang good. I mean, we have a USB USB port to charge my phone if I need it, along with Bluetooth where my phone will automatically connect to it, making it super nice and easy to use. And if I do ever need to remove this, all I have to do is take off this plastic housing right here, which will let me get access to those 4 spots I showed you previously, where you will put those things in, pop it out, and then we can remove it. But overall, works great. Allows me to dial in radio stations if I need to, and I can use my phone in my old 1997 F-350 now. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks again.